So I'm making this video to talk about the Sioux, the Lakota, my father's bloodline, and how they were aware of there being one consciousness, one God, or that consciousness itself, you know, is God or the Great Spirit, and they called it they called this consciousness Wankatanka. The Hindus would call him Brahma, but this represents consciousness. I mean, well, God is consciousness. But anyways, the quote goes, "Peace comes within the souls of men when they realize their relationship, their oneness with the universe and all its powers, and when they realize that at the center of the universe dwells Wankatanka, and that this center is really everywhere. It is within each of us." It's not the main reason why I wanted to create this video, uh, but the main reason was to show you guys that a lot of people, in the mainstream attributes the cave concept or the cave allegory, Plato's cave, to Plato, and I'm telling you guys right now that the Lakota, my father's people, Native Americans. We knew about the cave. We knew about the cave before we even heard about Plato. It's likely we knew of the cave even before Plato even came up with the allegory itself, the cave allegory. And the cave allegory is a metaphor for the Matrix. But the quote goes by Black Elk, the chief, the Lakota chief Black Elk. He said, "Crazy Horse dreamed and went into the world where there is nothing but the spirits of all things. That is the real world that is behind this one. And everything we see here is something like a shadow from that one." So, referring to the shadow show, within the cave. And and a lot of what we see, in this physical world is comes or is manipulated from the astral realm, the spirit world. And like for instance, a lot of these spirits, coming in the form of humans, reptilian hosts, or sometimes even full-blown shapeshifters, like full-blown aliens, walking among us, hiding behind human holograms and all that. Well, a lot of the hosting stuff, I think, takes place through the astral, through possession, and possession is, to me anyways, a fourth dimensional psychic ability. And so when one of these alien spirits takes a hold of a human vessel, they can manipulate the vessel into taking on different forms, different shapes, or and I think this is where we see a lot of these these people out here that shapeshift on TV, on movies, and sometimes even in real life in front of people's very own eyes, and this has happened to me, more than a few times where I've seen, some people, full blown shapeshift, and that's a story, and that's a story, and that's a different story for another time. I'll make a separate video talking about one of these experiences where I saw this, these two teenage girls. I was at a I might as well just tell the story now, but one day I was cruising around in my car. I got to a stoplight, and on the other side of the road was two teenage girls, looked like high school kids, probably somewhere around the age of 16, 17, and they looked like the cheerleading types, really pretty. And they were sitting inside this car. It was like a red pickup, and if I can remember right, and I remember I was waiting at the stoplight, and I happened to look over at them, and they both looked at me, and they were staring at me for a couple seconds, and then pretty soon they both shapeshifted. They turned into these, I don't it wasn't reptilian forms, but it was like this kind of like this Baphomet looking form, like part goat, part dog, you know, it was like some humanoid, part goat, part dog type of creature, and they stood in that, and they stayed in that form. This happened in broad daylight, right at a red light, you know, and there wasn't very many people around, if I can remember right. I think it could have just been my car, maybe some other car beside me or something, and them, and they were and they shapeshifted into these forms, stayed in these forms for probably about like 4 or 5 seconds, and then they shapeshifted back. They looked at each other, smiled, and then looked back at me, and they laughed, and they just laughed like ha ha ha, and they fucking drove off, and I was like, whoa, did I just see what I just saw right there? But there was like, but it was weird because even though I fully saw the shifting take place, it's like it didn't fully register inside my head. Like, you know, it was like I was under this, and we all are under this form of hypnosis, this form of sleep, this deep sleep, you know, third eye blind, you know, where we're walking around, you know, sleeping practically, you know, all human beings are hypnotized, you know, stuck, you know, trapped within this, you know, psychic frequency fence, to where if one was actually able to break through that, you know, they would actually, you know, see, you know, it would actually register inside my head that these people just fucking shapeshifted in front of me, but you know, but you know, I'm hypnotized, you know, where even though, you know, sometimes we see full-blown shapeshifts right in front of our eyes, but it doesn't, you know, we don't wake up from it. It's not enough to really click, you know, and I saw it, you know, I put that on everything I love, man, that I saw what I saw that day, and but anyways, and that's, you know, and I've had a few, you know, situations like that before, you know, it's not the first time, but and it probably won't be the last, but yeah, so you know, I'm just telling you guys that that, you know, not all shadows, you know, on the cave's wall, you know, are what they seem to be, because a lot of these shadows take on the form of human beings, but the ones that are casting these shadows, the ones that are hiding, you know, behind these shadows, these holograms, are anything but that. And so, you know, in the Lakota, you know, the Native Americans, they were, you know, aware of this fact, and tribal leaders are still aware of the fact that skinwalkers and shapeshifters, and skinwalkers are hosts, reptilian hosts, that are able, you know, because once a spirit, you know, once a very powerful spirit takes possession of a human being, you know, this human being will also gain its powers, or this spirit will access, you know, will turn on certain parts of the human mind, and they will use our own powers, you know, for itself, and then, you know, they would use those parts of our brain, the psychic parts, you know, and through that, you know, we will be forced to shapeshift, you know, and but yeah, so, you know, I mean, the Lakota, the tribal leaders, you know, even today are aware of the fact that you know, this planet is controlled by aliens. You know, they call them the Star People, and I've had really close. I mean, there's been people in my life that are really tied into this Native American stuff. You know, for me, I was raised on my mother's side of the family, my white side, my white European side. I was never raised on my father's side, so I was never raised within the culture to where I would know a lot of this. You know, I know very little, you know, when it comes to Native American spirituality, at least in comparison to you know, Native Americans that were brought up into that life, you know, that do have a lot more blood quantum than I do too. But I've been close, really close to more than a few of them, and some of them are, you know, claim to be medicine men, and one of them actually claims to be one of Crazy Horse's right hand men, you know, reincarnated, you know, in their past lives. They believe that they were actually, like, you know, one of Crazy Horse's you know, bodyguards or some shit like that. Not sure if I believe that or not, but he told me that you know, because I asked him once, you know, because the Lakota, the Sioux, you know, they worship 3 gods, well, 2 gods and 1 goddess. They give reverence to you know, the god Wankatanka, which is like Brahma consciousness, you know, the Great Spirit, and then they believe in another god called Tukonshla, and Tukonshla is represents the false light, the fire within Plato's cave, the fire that helps cast the shadow show on the cave's wall, the fire that everybody attributes to the real patriarchy, quote unquote. And humanity doesn't live under a real patriarchy. We live under a matriarchy. The cave, which we're in, which is a metaphor for the Matrix, is symbolized by darkness, ignorance. So the main god here is darkness, man. Is the black sun, is the female aspect. The vampire goddess Kali, that's the one in charge here. It's not the male. It never has been. But yes, a lot of what people attribute to the patriarchy is actually the false patriarchy, the false light that casts a shadow show on the cave's wall. It's not the real patriarchy that exists outside the cave, the real light that humanity would come to realize if we weren't third eye blind, if we were able to get back in touch with the masculine aspect of the soul, get back in touch with the light that we've been cut off from since the moment of our creation, because the gods created us, as cripples, in order to exploit us. They shut us off spiritually, during our creation process, so they can exploit our godhead. That's the reason for humanity's existence. We're like a form of cattle. We're used in a number of different ways by our alien creators, and that's the truth that nobody wants to talk about, man. But yeah. So I asked my close acquaintance, this Native American guy, this self-proclaimed medicine man, who is Tukonshla, because Tukonshla is the word for for the star people, and he said because I originally thought Tukonshla was the Christian god, and he said no, it's not. It's a unit of star people. It's a unit of beings. It's like an alien hive mind, and so but I do believe that Tukonshla also represents the Christian God, because that's exactly what Yahweh is a thought form that's represented by a number of alien extraterrestrials, an alien hive mind, that controls humanity, behind this thought form, behind the shadow show. And these aliens are parasites that are really prone to the black sun, the female aspect. And when the female aspect stands alone, it becomes, a vampire. If there's no male aspect there that humanity is connected to, that's connected with, the female aspect becomes, a lioness, something that, devours us after death and forces us to reincarnate back into this matrix, again and again and again. So that's the reason why, females, within this matrix are very vampiric, It's the vagina, intakes energy. It takes energy, the woman takes it. The male, the penis, gives energy, gives the seed, gives life. It's yang energy, females yin. So, and we're in a black sun matrix. So, but yeah. I just, final thing I want to say though is that, a lot of people, a lot of these, a lot of idiots out there that are really ignorant about Native American culture and all that. And they want to push these, Native people off as like nothing more than primitive savages. But they knew a lot more than what, than what the mainstream will ever, than what this reptilian piece of shit mainstream will ever give them credit for, man. And they knew, and they still know about the existence of reptilians, skinwalkers, and, the star people, aliens controlling this planet. But they never talk about it because they're not allowed to. It's forbidden, among the Lakota to talk about any of this. I could talk about it because, I'm not even really considered, an actual Native American by these people. Even though, my dad is Native American, and I have, around like 30%, like a fourth, Lakota blood in me, small blood quantum, but enough to know, so enough to know, a little bit. I mean, I've been around Native Americans my whole life, and I've been told things. I've been told stories that nobody would ever believe me on. But I've seen things too, and I know, these stories could, that I've been told could actually be, true. And but yeah, so one of the reasons why the Native Americans have been targeted and really destroyed throughout history, their culture, their language and all that, is because they're a race of people that are really tied to the spiritual world, to the magical world, the occult world, man. And a lot of these Native Americans back in the day were able to see reptilian shapeshifters, and that's one of the reasons why they shut us down to the extent that they did. And I need, and they're not allowed to talk about it. A lot of them aren't, but hey, that's not, I'm not full-blooded Native. I don't follow, their ways, not completely. So, so the system doesn't have any say over what I do. But if it ever comes to that point to where people actually, take me to heart and all that, I'm sure, that I won't be around, anymore to influence people on that level, because these aliens can take me out anytime they want. They could take out anyone, anytime, anyone inside this matrix, anytime they want, and there's nothing that nobody will be able to do about it unless they really, really, really get lucky and somehow find a loophole through the system to where they can escape, contact, aliens outside the system, contact, powerful aliens outside this matrix somewhere in the universe that aren't aware of humanity's situation on this planet, that aren't aware of our existence. But as soon as somebody makes that phone call, man, a full-blown invasion will happen overnight. Will happen, instantly. That's all it takes, man, is telepathically contact the right aliens, that are powerful enough to destroy this system, and they'll be here, but there's never been a human being in history that has ever been able to do that.